Hello, sunshine. Welcome to Be Visible with Veronica, the podcast where bold conversations and soul-aligned strategy help you awaken your most powerful self. I'm your host, Veronica Bond. Get ready to stop dimming your light, own your magic, and finally be so visible you can't be ignored. Let's get visible. Hello, sunshines. Welcome to the Be Visible with Veronica podcast. I'm your host, Veronica Bond, and today we have an incredible guest, Dorie Morales, the publisher of Green Living magazine, who is the premier sponsor of this podcast. And now, a word from our sponsor. A heartfelt thank you to our premier sponsor, Green Living magazine, Arizona's leading conscious lifestyle publication. Each issue is packed with new ideas on how to use nature's resources for sustainable living tips, inspiring stories, and statewide eco events. Subscribe today and get 12 print issues and digital access at greenlivingmag.com/store. Thank you for joining us today. I have a very special guest, somebody who's near and dear to my heart. She has been on this entrepreneurial journey side by side with me for about the same amount of time, approximately 14 years that we've known each other and supporting each other here in Arizona. And Dorie, thank you so much for not only being part of this global impact, sharing our stories about women entrepreneurship and what we go through along our journey, but also creating this incredible magazine that talks about sustainability and how we can live consciously to leave the environment a better place than we found it. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Veronica, for asking me to be on your podcast. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm really excited to share the story of how Green Living started and when it started and my journey.
So that was approximately how long ago?
At the beginning of the year, it's 15 years, but we will produce our 15-year issue in September.
How does that feel? 15 years.
15 years. Amazing. Most of the time when I started, a lot of people didn't think the magazine would be around, and an eco-conscious magazine. And if you think back to 2010 and what the real estate market was doing, and people would say, oh, I recycle, but they didn't know what composting was. They didn't know what was going on with a lot of different things in terms of sustainability.
Well, and I think that you have put Arizona on the map when it comes to this eco-conscious way of living. I just went to an Earth Day event that you threw back in April, correct?
Correct.
And it was jam-packed. Not only did you have legislatures there, you had some of the top minds in Arizona sharing their platform. You had guests coming on talking about water systems and travel and sustainable living in terms of neighborhoods that don't need cars. I mean,
a carless community.
I know.
Who knew in Arizona we would launch a carless community?
And in 120 or 15 degrees sometimes, walking, what does that look like for people? I can't wait to learn more about that. But more particularly, you and I have had late night conversations, early morning 4 a.m. conversations, text messages, supporting each other, collaborating, brainstorming, sharing our tears, sharing frustrations, because taking this magazine from a concept to 15 years, I'm sure has been a roller coaster of emotions, a roller coaster of wondering if you were going to close the doors, a roller coaster of celebrating your beautiful ad partners. And I just want to take a moment to also add here that when I came to you with the concept of this podcast and sharing with you what my vision was and the impact I wanted to make, and I knew that it would make globally, you were an immediate, I'm all in, because this is more about a movement.
100% women's movement.
And you had told me some very interesting demographics about your magazine that I think some of the listeners or viewers might like to learn about. So those are the three things I want to make sure we're touching base on. Let's first talk about the concept of the magazine and what was in your heart, what sparked that brought you to today.
In all honesty, it was a business opportunity. I had been in the magazine industry previously, and my former business partner, people came to him, why don't you start a lifestyle magazine? And he said, in Scottsdale, Arizona, why? And then some people came to him and said, why don't you start an eco-conscious green magazine? And we did our due diligence, and nothing was like it. And then I had 3 major signs before I gave him an answer if I was in or not. But I went to the airport, and how does the United States rank in terms of sustainability? The front cover of the magazine on the plane. And then I went to Portland, and everything that is happening in Portland is all about sustainability. So the second I got back from that trip, I said I'm in 100%. And we started in January, and we produced our first magazine in September.
You know, Dorie, one of the mom conversations I had with you, because we're all about splitting that pie with our lives, with our significant others, our husbands. And for those of you who don't know, Dorie's also my cousin, married to my cousin Mark. And so, yes, we've known each other in family. We have quite an entrepreneurial family of women. But more importantly, we talked about our kids, and you said, I want to leave a legacy for my children, something that they can be really proud of. And that's part of the Be Visible with Veronica mission, is we're really talking about visibility, not from a vanity standpoint, but from a legacy and leadership standpoint. And I have watched you grow in your business. I have watched you excel, expand. Let's talk about the demographics that you reach with the magazine, both in print, and we have a print. I thought we had a magazine somewhere, in print and in digital.
Mm-hmm. We touch about 102,000 people on a monthly basis, and we're definitely female. We have about 79% of our demographics are female, and the sweetest spot is from 35 to 65 years old, but we're really working on tapping into the 21-year audience through some different things that we're doing, and they're college-educated homeowners. They're concerned about the environment. They're concerned about health and wellness as their number one area that people who read the magazine care about. And a lot of people don't connect the dots between lifestyles of health and sustainability, because you could be caring for the planet, but if you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Well, speaking of health, we both like to wear our beautiful crystal bracelets, and I see that you have some lovely ones. I love the emerald that you have there. That's gorgeous, and I've got my quartz on. It's just another way, I think, you talked about you saw 3 signs, because I think that there'll be entrepreneurs listening who think, how do I know what is the next best step for me? How can I trust that I'm making the right decision? Because it was a huge leap of faith. Not only did you partner, but then you purchased the magazine and became sole owner.
That's correct. About 2 years in, or a little less than 2 years. So
let's talk about that story for a second. How did you know you were ready to take it on yourself and offer your partner a buyout, basically, so that it could be your baby and you could treat it however you wanted, and it could be about your vision, and you didn't have to answer to anybody else about creating it other than your board that you also put together?
It was kind of at a crossroads in the business, to be quite honest, and I basically went to my business partner and I said, I feel like you should buy me out or I should buy you out. And he said, no, you love this. This is in your ecos. And so I said, okay. And what is the number? And I wrote him a check, and there we were.
So talk about a leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Because you trusted yourself to get it done, and you believed in your mission. Have you ever, in the course of 15 years, thought about, I'm done? Let's talk about what that might have felt like.
So with the magazine, there's been time over 15 years that you feel like maybe maybe I need to do something different. Maybe this isn't where I need to go. But then we would get increased readers and we'd get increased advertisers, or someone would call and want to do a big event. But during those down times, you, I think, have to go inside and really look at your soul and am I doing the right thing? But then I would get a sign again. Someone would write a letter that I read your magazine cover to cover. Your magazine changed my life. My mom and I had health issues and we had gut issues and we couldn't find anything, and we found the supplement and it changed our life. And they had their health journey, or we shared a story about someone's cancer story for a year, and people are calling and saying, oh my gosh, we want to meet this person. Will he be at your next event? We're subscribing to your magazine from all over the country. And he was getting calls all the time. And so that's when I was like, I know I'm going in the right direction. Wow. And I've got to continue the story.
Speaking of calls from around the world, what's the farthest reach for the magazine?
Currently, it is in the United States, but we do, well, not really. Our Google Analytics, I believe India is the second largest country that's reading the magazine.
Incredible.
And then Japan.
Okay. Now, I've also watched you travel to some beautiful eco-friendly hotels. Some sustainability hotels was one of them in India. Is that where you went?
Clean, green, healthy hotels in India. It was the most incredible journey and retreat that I've ever experienced. And everything in the hotel that they did was all about sustainability. There's no plastic containers in your trash. It's reusable containers in your trash. They bring you in your soap, your shampoo, and it comes in a ceramic container. Then they just fill it up every day. They have biomass digesters on the property. Everything was organic, and they had conservation trips that you could go on and connect with the monkeys and the wildlife, and you would walk right there to see these things, and it was unbelievable. Your water came in glass containers, so there's absolutely no plastic on the properties. And Kerala is it's actually a communist state in India, and they've just got healthy organic food and tons of yoga people practicing yoga and meditation and mindfulness, and a completely beautiful way of life.
Thank you for sharing. I know that you've also had some, and that sounds amazing, and I would love to know where that hotel was. Maybe we'll have to put it in the show notes for the listeners and the viewers.
Definitely.
In 15 years, do you have a standout guest who's been highlighted on the cover of your magazine?
I would say Jane Goodall. And then Deepak Chopra, which I had the pleasure of interviewing Deepak Chopra, and my editor was the one who interviewed Jane Goodall.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Are those still digitally available?
They are.
So for those of you who are wondering, you can get a digital subscription.
Definitely.
We'll talk about that more later. So on the journey that you've been on 15 years as an entrepreneur, publisher of Green Living Magazine, talk about one challenge that you've faced in being the CEO of this company, the founder, in terms of highlighting how you might have gotten over that obstacle or challenge.
I'm going to go back to, I know Carrie said about Carrie Conley, one of your past guests, talked about being on your own lane. And I think it's a blessing and a curse, but when you have the right brain, left brain, and really you need to be the visionary, but I can also be the analytical person. But behind every great company, you've got your Steve Jobs, but you've got your Steve Wozniak that's doing all the operations. And so that's been one of my largest struggles, is finding that operations person that can really keep everybody in their systems and their places and things like that, instead of me trying to do both areas.
Do you think that's a personality trait with an A-type personality who has a hard time letting go of some of those operational details and trusting the process? Or is it taking time to find that person? Like, where do you think the biggest hurdle is? If you had a magic wand right now, and at the end of the year, you could design the perfect person for that position, what would that look like for you? And so that it's no longer a challenge.
I think I have the right person coming on board. So someone that's very detail oriented, but also does know about writing and editing, and but really knows about systems and processes and what it takes to take the company to the next level. And I do also have someone else on my team that really knows about software and CRM systems and how to manage them. So we'll be in the process of changing over software. And I think once all of these systems and processes are put into place, that the team will be able to be more productive at a higher level.
And, that takes infrastructure and financial infrastructure. So that's a huge commitment on your part to be able to outlay that kind of capital.
Correct.
When you're running your magazine, I'm also at the level that you're at, guessing that it takes a really good banking relationship to find somebody who really understands your needs, and to have that community relationship with a banker so that you can find your equity in your company, or a small business loan, or a line of credit, so that you can be investing in this next vision 10.0 for 15.0 here.
15.0, yes.
For Dorie and Green Living, to take you to that 15x space. Would that be, and I know you're out in the community, and obviously 15 years you have been able to build some beautiful relationships in business, personally and professionally. Would you say that is a number one, like if you had a top 10 list for entrepreneurs and founders of scaling and growing their company, that would be a number one goal to
I would say that having a banking financial relationship is extremely important, and I bank locally. And then I just recently found out of I believe it's like the Arizona, I can put it in the show notes, but it's opportunity for women. And you can actually get loans right now at a lower percentage. And there's a lot of small businesses that if you're a micro loan business, like you have 5 employees or less, there's a lot of loan opportunities that are available. And then there are grant opportunities as well. For women business owners.
I would love to put 2 or 3 of those in the show notes for the listeners and viewers here, to give them something actionable that they can take for themselves, and as they're going to explore and either scaling their business, taking it to that next level. You and I talked about a recent book that you were reading, personal development, or business development. What is your favorite one you've read, say, in the last year?
I'm in the middle of, I would say, Alter Ego. And that has been really good, by Todd Herman. Okay.
What's your favorite thing about it so far?
Learning how to be your alter ego and finding what it's going to be. Is it going to be an animal? Is it going to be a person? And who is it going to be? So.
And why is that important for you?
Because I think, in all honesty, I think everyone struggles a little bit with being in front of the camera, or speaking in front of 1,000 people, and what you have to do in order to get up and present in front of 1,000 people. And since I started reading the book, I can tell you that at the Future of Sustainability, I wasn't as nervous being up in front of the crowd because of some of the different mind techniques it's taught me.
Nice. Alter ego. I love that. I've always loved The Alchemist, the deep dive into that book. If you haven't read it, I think it's great. And I really loved the story, which put me on the mission that I have right now, which is by Melinda Gates, and The Power of Lift. I think that's the name of it. I have it right here. But what I loved about that book was how women lift communities. And I'm going to reach over and grab it because I want to make sure I have the name. Oh, The Moment of Lift, yes.
The Moment
of Lift. And she talks about how women all over the world, if you invest in them and give them an opportunity to grow and learn and advance their education, north of 88% of those women come back into their community and teach what they've learned in order to lift the community up. And yet in many third world countries, the opportunity goes to the male, the younger man, and the young woman stops getting educated early in her life. And I loved how so many groups are coming together, and it was part of why I wanted to create this podcast to hopefully be translated into multiple languages so that it affects and inspires and gives hope to women in business all over the world, no matter what age they are. My husband and I met a 14-year-old at an airport in South Africa, and she was selling all these beautiful beaded bracelets and necklaces that she had created. And I asked her, is this something full-time that you do? And she said that she spoke 14 languages. So she was completely fluent in English.
Wow.
I know, 14. I'm saying
That's incredible.
I have 1.0. I could maybe get by with a little bit of Spanish. But the thing that really caught me was her saying she takes all the money that she earns, she reinvests it back into her business for more materials, but then the rest she takes to the village, not just to her family, but to her community. And I loved that. And it was an impactful moment for me. And several years back in 2019, my niece had a lemonade stand and she was promoting it on Facebook. And she was 7 or 8 years old, and she was trying to earn money to go to Disneyland. And I remember thinking, somebody needs to write a book called The Lemonade Stand about how you start on this entrepreneurial journey.
That would be amazing.
So, but then 2 months later, the book was happening, and I got to write a chapter in a book called The Lemonade Stand. So we talk about signs and noticing them, right?
Yep.
And being aware. And people talk about luck, and I'm a firm believer in the quote, and at the moment I can't remember who said it, but opportunity is created by being, I can't grab the word. What am I looking for?
Maybe.
Let's see. Preparedness creates opportunity.
Preparedness.
Preparedness creates opportunity. There's no such thing as luck. So your whole life you've been prepared for where you are now, and every obstacle you continue to grow. You continue to grow. You continue to advance your knowledge. Be willing to let go of things that do not serve you, and find the resources around you to continue in this global effort. So what is your vision and goal for Green Living Magazine, say 10 years down the road?
Well, I want to comment on what you were just talking about really briefly.
Yes.
Is opportunity. You never turn down an opportunity. I met an artist at a friend of mine's store, and he said, my dad always taught me, always say yes. Like one of his clients told him he needed to start painting, and he had never painted. And then he ended up painting these beautiful paintings because his client said, I really think you need to take, even though he does these amazing gourd sculptures, and that's like his background, but then now he creates these masterpieces because someone, and his dad had brought him up, never turned down an opportunity. So I'm living by that too. Even if you think you have too much going on, and how am I going to do something? And I judged in a fashion event like 2 days before, and ended up meeting amazing fashion designers and made a bunch of incredible business connections that I never would have made if I had said, no, I'm too busy.
I love that you shared that, because one of the things that I've discovered as the executive managing director for eWomen Network and running the 2 businesses that I've created, and where I started with my husband, is the power of yes puts you in the room with such great intention. But I know that's also part of mindset, and it's part of your belief ability and how you grow, and recognizing that the right people need to be around you to support you in that community and to lift you and be your foundational support. And that young woman that I mentioned that we met in South Africa who was 14, she had somebody helping her Like she couldn't always get to all the places she needed to go. And she talked about creating a community and when you thrive in a community, she found people to support her so she could do what she did. That was so great with her creativity in the bracelets that she was selling to all the tourists at the airport. You talked about noticing opportunity and the power of yes, and people call you the Energizer Buddy. I know you have a close circle of friends who literally... your head spins when we watch your calendar. Like, how do you keep... Wait, I just saw you over there and now you're over here. And the valley is vast. It's growing like crazy, Arizona. And we never know where's Dorie going to be. But you show up. You show up even when you're tired, right? I'm guessing. Even when you're eating on the run, which isn't advisable. But I also know you put into practice some really good self-care. Let's talk about that for a minute. Because as you're scaling and growing and you're 15Xing your company, which is going to take you to your moonshot, what does that look like for you in what is one daily routine that is non-negotiable for you that you have to do in order to maintain at the speed and level which you are?
I have a couple of them, but going back to three, there's three things I do religiously, and then maybe I'll throw in a fourth or fifth, but meditate. The minute I wake up, I get out of bed, I go and I meditate, and then I do a prayer and then words of affirmation or some affirmation. There's non-negotiable. I started it in COVID, and that's pretty much the three things I need to do. And then I'm pretty passionate about working out and yoga and sound baths and different things like that as well. And listening to thought leaders like Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer and some of the people like that as well.
Well, I know that we've talked about on this show, learner are earners and readers are leaders. And I know that we're always sharing. Did you listen to this podcast? Did you watch this person? Have you listened to this book? What did you think about that? We did a Deepak Chopra meditation.
21 days.
21 days. I think we started that, was it 2019? I mean, I know that...
It was beforehand.
It was before COVID that we started doing that. And I really believe somebody's probably listening going, meditation, is that just sitting there, deep breath? Is it closing your eyes? Is it listening to music? What does meditation look like? What does meditation look like for you? And do you put on a timer? Is it quiet time?
Meditation for me, I normally look at YouTube and find whatever subject that resonates with me, and anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. And then I know that you can do it, and I have tried to do it completely silent and done some meditations like that as well. But I normally like to do more of a guided meditation, or I do go to some meditations as well at different places throughout the valley.
I love that. I just did one on Sunday, and it was beautiful. It was a different experience I'd never stepped into before, and it was really lovely. I hope to have the founder of that company, Joya with Vibology, on our podcast soon. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure we close here with, Dorie, is in your moonshot goal, share with us what that, let's go back. I want you to tell everybody, what does it look like for you 10 years down the road?
10 years down the road, that's a moonshot. Well, I was going to start with one of the things that I want to do now, and then I can go to 10 years. But I really want to start responsible travel trips, starting in the state and then venturing outside the state and doing things like that. But my 10-year goal is to have green living nationwide.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So,
and then maybe even globally at that point too.
So if you were listening to this or watching it, how can people find you? Where do they need to go to help you make that moonshot come true?
greenlivingmag.com, and then on social media, it's Green Living Mag on all platforms, and a few of them you may have to add the AZ behind it.
So that's how they find you, greenlivingmag, MAG.com, so they can get a digital subscription or actually paper subscription, which I can't believe we don't have one sitting here with us. You go everywhere with your magazines. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, Dorie. You have been an incredible premier sponsor for the magazine, for the podcast. And I'm so grateful to have you here representing the magazine, your vision of 15 years, what you've done, sharing some important steps that listeners can do on their entrepreneurial journey. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, I want to thank you that nothing has given me more pleasure than being your premier sponsor. I love you and support you, and I'm so thankful and grateful for you.
Well, and every guest, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And we have a gift for you. It is our Hello Sunshine box.
Awesome.
And if you want to open it really quick and take a peek.
Okay.
There's some fun things in there. I couldn't tell you if anything's sustainable, but I just wanted you to know how much we appreciate everything that you've done and what you're doing for the planet and how you are showing up in your purpose with your vision every single day. Dorie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Veronica.
And stay tuned. If you loved this episode and you want to hear more, you will be able to catch Colleen Biggs next week. Listen to her story as she's journeyed through entrepreneurship more than once. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to Be Visible with Veronica. If today's episode sparked something in you, share it, tag me, and pass it on. Your presence has power, and the world is better when you let it be seen. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and keep showing up as the unstoppable force you were born to be. I'll see you next time.